After the Season 3 Reloaded update, we actually got a second update going over some changes that happened in the background with the LMGs, and we're going to cover what are the best LMGs to use inside Warzone right now. If you do enjoy content like this, don't forget to subscribe to the channel as we try to reach our goal of 50k subscribers. Click that link in the description and subscribe to our second channel. The first thing I want to actually show you is the patch notes quickly. So it's May the 26th, which was the day after the Reloaded update that took place for Season 3. We got some slight adjustments to the stims, but that's not what we're here to talk about. We're here to talk about the weapon changes to LMG. So only two LMGs got slight changes here. So we've got the Whitley LMG, which got a damage buff, which it kind of needed in my opinion, because it was a very underused weapon. And then the Type 11 got a damage increase as well. Now, overall, when it comes to TTKs, we'll take a look at that in just a second, but they did also change some of the other attachments on the weapons themselves. Now, we took all this new data and we plugged it into our TTK spreadsheet right here, and this is for chest shot TTKs at 300 HP. And as you can see here, we've got all the kind of updated TTKs and things like that. So what we're going to do is arrange it for the second damage range, because that is the most important when it comes to LMGs, where people are mainly using it for long range, and it's because you've got a kind of larger magazine capacity. This is why we would use LMGs over assault rifles, for example. And we're going to organize it with the fastest TTK first, and then obviously the slowest at the bottom. Now, it seems to me overall that they're trying to make the TTK for long range as close to 100 milliseconds or 1 second as possible, which is kind of good in a way. And I think the kind of close range TTK is going to be around about 700 milliseconds. So that's kind of what they're aiming for, in my opinion. Obviously, some guns will be a little bit quicker, some guns will be a little bit slower, but overall, I think that's the consistent TTK they're looking for. But regardless, we're going to be looking at what is the fastest killing gun at long range, and we've got the Fin with the adverse barrel, but the recoil is a bit too hard to control on that weapon. So the M91 from Modern Warfare is the next best gun, and in my opinion, I think it's a very solid, consistent weapon across the board. It's kind of very similar in terms of TTK to the MG82 from Cold War, which is the next weapon. The only issue with this gun is, again, it's got a bit more recoil than we'd like. So that's why I think the M91 is actually a very solid option, and it's kind of rare to see Modern Warfare guns actually be in the meta. Then we've got the Bruen and the PKM, which are pretty much tied. It's going to come down to personal preference on those two. We've got the RPD, which I think is a solid gun now. Stoner, not so good, because the recoil on the RPD is a little bit better. Bruen is still a solid option as well, in my opinion. RAL LMG is solid. Whitley, slightly higher up on the list than it was before, because that TTK buff. Now we're going to get into the best 4 LMGs. I only think there is 4 kind of viable SMGs in general, especially for long range anyway. And we're starting off the list with the Bruen, and it's a super low recoil option. Now, even though the TTK got nerfed on this gun, the reason why it's still so good is because it's not got any recoil in this weapon. So if you want to try something easy to use, the Bruen is still a solid choice. Now, a lot of the weapons right now when it comes to the meta is going towards low recoil. The reason for that is because TTK on pretty much every weapon now is extremely slow, so you might as well take a gun that you're going to land all your shots with, and that is why I do think the Bruen is solid. So the only kind of slight adjustments to the Bruen build that we've made is we are using the MX silencer, we are using the same Queen's Royal barrel. This is the best at controlling recoil for this gun. G16 optic, or whatever optic you like. Hawkson stock is actually the best stock for the Bruen. We've got tight grip as well to give us extra recoil control. On hand's going to give us a faster ADS time, because we will need it now. Polymer grip for the better recoil control. The only adjustment is we're now using the 100 round mags instead of the 50 round mags. Now, you can use the 50 if you want to, but you will get a slightly better TTK with the 100 rounds, plus you get the larger mag capacity, which is kind of the main reason of using an LMG in the first place. Hand stop underbarrel and lengthened. At number 3, we have the RPD. The RPD is definitely a solid LMG still. Showing you the TTKs from before, it's still overall, when it comes to TTKs, a good weapon, but also it's very low recoil as well. Now, it's not quite as easy to control as the Bruen, but you do get a bit more reward when it comes to how fast you can kill enemies. So obviously there is a bit of a trade-off there, and you do get a large mag, and you get pretty decent movement because it's a Cold War weapon. So overall, still solid. So we're using the GRU suppressor for the best possible damage range, bullet velocity. We're using the Task Force barrel again for the bullet velocity and the recoil control. Axial 3x optic is pretty much the standard optic we use. Serpent wrap for a better ADS time, where you can switch this out for anything else you really want to. You can even use a Tiger Team Spotlight for faster movement, but I think a faster ADS will help out basically your practical TTK a bit quicker. And then we use the Spetsnaz grip to control the recoil as much as possible. So at number 2, we have a gun that I've been talking about for such a long time now, and no one's still using it. but it's still a super solid weapon, and it's the M91. Now, it's one of the best LMGs in the game for TTK now, especially if you're landing chest shots, of course. But on top of that, it's very easy to control. The recoil pattern is very similar to the M4 from Modern Warfare, so you're going to get a very similar recoil pattern. You're going to get a pretty good TTK, which is actually one of the fastest when it even comes to some ARs now. And it's low recoil, and on top of that, the movement's not too bad on the M91 too, so it's a solid gun to use. So you want to use the mono suppressor for the damage range and sound suppression. The M91 heavy barrel is the best barrel at controlling recoil. Tac laser for the better ADS time, VLK optic because it also helps with recoil control, and the commando foregrip. But overall, this gun is super consistent over any range, so I highly recommend trying it out if you haven't already. Last but not least, at number 1, we have the Bruen. Now, the Bruen and the PKM can both be in this number 1 spot. You can basically use both here. The only difference is I think the Bruen's a little bit easier to manage, so if you do want to use one of these two weapons, I think the Bruen's a little bit easier to control, but overall in terms of TTK, they're both exactly the same. So you want to use the mono suppressor, you want to use the summit barrel for the best possible recoil control, you want to use the tac laser for the better ADS time and the aiming stability, VLK optic and the commando foregrip, and that is going to be the best build for the Bruen. So there we have it. Those are the best 4 LMGs inside Warzone right now. I'll leave a build up for the PKM if you do want to try that out as well. But if you do enjoy this video, don't forget to subscribe to the channel as we try to reach our goal of 50k subscribers, and click that link in the description and subscribe to our second channel. And thank you very much for watching.